Let's get comfy and cozy and talk about rejection. Why did I choose this topic? It's so weird. Okay, just bear with me. I gotta get my blankies, you know me. Let's get cozy. Should I bring this closer? I don't remember how I had it last time. Okay, is that too close or is that cozy? Okay, let's call it close and cozy. Okay, hope you can hear me okay. I don't know why I speak so quietly when Camden is all the way upstairs sleeping with his noise machine and his music machine on, but I'm just terrified if I'm waking up every time I put him down for a nap. Grab your cuppa and just join in the fun. So our topic today is so weird. I don't know why I choose these topics. Hello. We are going to talk about rejection. And I think I want to talk about it because it is something that I struggle with in my life in terms of how I handle it, in terms of how I absorb the feelings that I get when I feel rejected or experience rejection. Do I hear a baby? No, I think that's Skylar singing. She's in the playroom. So I thought, you know what, if I struggle with dealing with rejection, maybe somebody else does too, and we can kind of work through it together and figure out why it's so hard, why it kind of eats at us, and what we can do about it to not let it affect us the way that it sometimes can. So my first thought about rejection is that we kind of equate it with failure. I know I do. So if I feel rejected or experience rejection from something or someone, I feel like I've failed, and I don't like to feel that feeling of failure. I'm not really a fan of people being like, I'm a perfectionist, because that's almost like a little egotistical. I know I have a tendency to want to do things really well. I know that people who might call themselves perfectionists probably do the same thing. They care very hard. They care very much about what they're doing, why they're doing it. So they put a lot of who they are into something. And some might call that perfectionism, or some might just call that passion or caring. I think when we call ourselves perfectionists, it's almost kind of sounds like we're just really good at things that we do, and that's why we want to do them so well. It's borderline egotistical. So let's just call ourselves passionate. It's just prettier off the tongue anyway. So nobody, whether you're a perfectionist or you're passionate or not, nobody wants to feel like a failure. But when we put ourselves out there, whether we're in a vulnerable situation or we just receive some sort of criticism or rejective type of feedback, it can really, really affect us. It can really bring us down. It can affect our self-esteem. It can cause depression. It can cause anxiety, and it can cause us to not want to try again. It can cause us to want to give up. I am a person who gives up. I am a person who, or I should say I'm a person who wants to give up. When something is not going well, or when I feel like I'm gonna fail at something, I just want to give up before it gives up on me. I don't know what you would call that. All of you counselors and psychologists out there can kind of let me know what type of person I am. Or Enneagram people. People call me an 8. I don't know a lot about Enneagrams, but that's what I am. I think that's the control freak. But anyway, nobody likes to feel like a failure, and when we feel rejected, we feel like we failed. Just like I said, I am a very passionate person. When I have a project or something that I put a lot of effort or thought and care into, if it's not well received, or it's rejected, or I'm rejected, it really hurts. It really is a blow to our self-esteem and our heart and everything. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. Here's where it's gonna get embarrassing and interesting for all you guys listening. I'm gonna talk about some times that I've experienced rejection that I don't really go around telling these stories because they're, I don't want to say embarrassing. It's not like, oh, and then I fell down in front of everybody. How embarrassing. This is like a deep, like, hurt, embarrassing kind of, just like I just don't like to tell these stories. But here I go. The first one to me, like, is the most embarrassing, but here we go. So when I was in my early 20s, I think I was like 23, I was encouraged to audition for American Idol. And it was something that I maybe thought about a little bit because it was really, really big at the time. It had been like, it had like a couple of seasons under its belt, and it was pretty big. And some people were like, you really need to audition, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, I could try that. Like, you know, what are the chances? But yeah, I can sing, like, yeah, I'll try it. And I don't know if you've ever auditioned for American Idol. I know there are a lot of you out there and we just don't talk about it because we didn't end up like Kelly Clarkson. But if you are out there, I just actually discovered one of my best friends, we didn't know this about each other, that we both auditioned for American Idol and did not end up on TV. Anyway, so there was a whole process involved, exhausting process, definitely something that like I got out of the way before I had kids and all that stuff, you know, sowing my wild reality TV oats, I guess. Anyway, quite a process, and preparing a song, blah, 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 nerves, picking out an outfit, going shopping, doing all the things. And then I can't remember where the first audition was, but it was either in Tampa or Orlando or something like that, but it was in this huge stadium, huge, with thousands and thousands of people and lines and just chaos. And they would just let you sing like a 30-second song, and then it was either thumbs up, thumbs down, and most of them were thumbs down. Occasionally someone would get a thumbs up and they would move to a different area and fill out information to go to the next thing. I don't remember what I sang for the first audition, but they gave me a thumbs up. And I was like, okay, here we go. And then I got, you know, moved on, approved for the next audition, which was like months later I think it was in Jacksonville. And so, you know, that was like my next adventure. I went to Jacksonville, another just huge, chaotic, lots of things going on, lots of people. And then I finally make it up to the audition room, and there was a panel of probably 5 people. Meanwhile, there was this guy who was some sort of like low-level producer type guy, but thought he was in charge. And he looked exactly like the formerly known as the Verizon guy, but I think he works for the other cell phone company now. It's very confusing. He kind of switched over. But he was the "Can you hear me now" guy. Anyway, this guy wasn't him, but he looked exactly like him. So picture this kind of, you know, guy like on his phone all the time. I mean, he looked like him too, but like on his phone, like just maybe headset, like just looking like, you know, he's so cool and he's like so high up in American Idol, which he probably wasn't. But he, you know, did his thing, and he was floating around like crazy. And then when I went into the room with the panel of like 5 judges, I was about to start singing, and he comes in just for fun and just like waltzes right in and kneels down at the table and just is like looking at me like, yeah, I want to hear this too, go. And I was just like, okay, whatever. So I sing, and I think I sang I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Beatles, but the slowed down version from Across the Universe. Remember that movie? And such a beautiful song, slowed down, really, really soulful, and I felt really confident singing it. The Beatles have always been one of my favorite bands, and I loved it. So even though I was super nervous, I sang and I felt like I did a good job. And the Verizon guy immediately, even though he was not one of the judges, immediately he goes, "Your voice has no melody. It's just like flat. It's just like nothing." And I was just like, okay. And he's like, yeah, he's like, he's like, sorry, there's just like nothing to it. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And then what was funny was the 5 people sitting at the actual judges table were so thrown by it, and they're looking at each other like, they're literally having this conversation in front of me while I'm standing there. They're going, well, I think she did a great job. I think she did a great job too. I think she's really good. And they're all looking at each other like, we say yes. And the Verizon guy is like, you say yes? Oh, I say no. But if you guys say yes, then yeah, sure. Then he looks at me, he's like, yep, they say yes, so you go through. And I'm like, what just happened? So there were 5 people, whoops. Okay, I'm in low battery mode, so I'm gonna make this quick. I thought I was charging my phone, but I don't think it was charging. So I am like totally confused because I think, okay, 5 people think I did a good job, and I think I can move on to the next one, which is the actual producers of the show, not like the on-camera judges like Simon Cowell and all those people. That was like the last one, but I was gonna move on to like that in-between one for the producers. But my confidence was shaken. Like I didn't know what was going on. That guy was so mean. He didn't even have a spot there. Sorry, I'm taking way too long on this one story, but it's just like, I'm still not over it. And it's been like 16 years almost. But it was like not okay. So anyway, I went from feeling really confident to feeling like I just got, like, I had never in my life had somebody say such horrible things about my singing. Never in my life. And I'm just like, I was in shock. I was just like, okay, he heard me. He's not making it up. He heard what he heard, and that's what he thinks about my voice. So I don't think I'm as good as I thought I was, and I don't know if I even believe the people who think I am good. It was just like the most shaking of confidence that I had ever experienced about singing. And then I had to go pretty much immediately into the audition for the producers. And I was like trying not to cry, because that is the number one way that I handle rejection, is I cry. It's really awesome. It's not embarrassing at all. So I'm like, I walk through to the next hallway where I had to go to the next audition for the producers, and there was probably just like maybe 5 minutes in between those 2 auditions. And so in those 5 minutes, I'm going to myself, I'm just like, I gotta change that song. I mean, it was that song. I think that song was just too slow. Maybe that's why he thought my voice fell flat and like it just wasn't very good. And all I'm focusing on was that one idiot who said those horrible things about my singing voice, and I didn't focus on those 5 really nice people who wanted to give me the thumbs up. He just got in my head, and I changed my song. Like last minute, I picked a completely different song that was really stupid because it was like an R&B song, and I'm obviously like not really an R&B singer, but I thought I needed something like cooler and like hipper and like that kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, just completely change everything. I'm gonna sing this other song, which I think was an En Vogue song. If you know who En Vogue is, give me a thumbs up, give me a like, or whatever. And I went in with that song instead of the song that I had been practicing and was so confident with. And I was so nervous that I was shaking in my boots. And I go in for the producers, and it turns out they're British, which was so stupid because I should have stuck with my Beatles song, British. What is it, honey? I know, but I need to finish this just real quick.
Can I just sit here, please?
Okay. I guess it's okay. You can. I'm just going to talk about something in a second that's a little weird for her to be around, but okay, why not? So anyway, I sing, and I'm like shaking. I could tell I was just not on my game, but I did my best. And the producers and their adorable British accents were very kind, but just were very honest and said, and I'm not gonna try to do the accent because every time I try to do it, it sounds terrible. They just said, Colleen, here's the thing. You're good, but you're not great. And I was like, oh man, that Verizon guy got into my head. And then they just said, they said some nice things, but they just let me know like this is the end for you. And I was just like, okay. And I walked out of that room and I cried so hard that I couldn't even breathe. And I cried probably for the next 3 hours or so. I remember going back to my hotel and just laying on my bed, crying and crying and crying, thinking, this is me. This is who I am. Like, I'm a singer. This is all I have. Like, if I'm not good, then I don't know who I am. If I'm not a singer, then I remember thinking, like, this is all I have. Like, this is all I have been for all my life. I've been a singer. This is what everyone has told me I am. This is my thing. And I just got cut and like criticized and rejected by the people who are supposed to be like pretty much the ultimate judges of vocals. And I would love to say, if that Verizon guy hadn't been in that room, that I would have gone on and I would have wowed those British judges with my rendition of the Beatles song, and then I would be the next Kelly Clarkson. But who knows if that would have happened, or if the judges would have also just thought, hey, even at your best, you're still not that great. Who knows what would have happened. But talk about rejection. That is probably one of the most gut-punching feelings of rejection I've ever had in my life. And I still not over it, obviously. But I think I learned a lot from that, which we will talk about in a second. I want to tell a few more stories real quick. There was another time when I was, this is another singing related one, where I was trying out a new church in Tampa. I will not say the name of it. And I decided that I would like to audition for the worship team. It was all men at the time, probably still is. And I play guitar, and I'm a worship leader now. So it's like, it's my thing. It's not that I have never done this before. And I had experience leading on worship teams and things like that before. So I was very confident that I would be able to go in and, audition with this worship team, and they would at least have me in some sort of rotation. And it was the weirdest situation because when I asked if I could audition for their worship team, the lead or the worship director was very nice, and he said sure, and he gave me like a date and time to come down, and he gave me 2 songs to sing, and they were both male-led songs and in the male-led keys. And if you're a singer or you're familiar with music in any capacity, you know that men's ranges and women's ranges are just very different. So me singing a David Crowder song in David Crowder's key is just not going to sound like I should sound. It's just going to sound like I'm trying to sing like a man, and it's very strange. One song was a David Crowder song. I can't remember what the other one was, but I learned the songs. I was very confused that I had to sing them in those keys. But I was just like, I'll just do what they say. So I just kind of did my best, but it didn't show off what I could do as a singer because I was just singing down here and I was singing David Crowder and blah, blah, blah. And what was really weird about that is I auditioned, I said goodbye, and I never heard anything about it. Like, I still went to the church for like a couple of months after that, and they just never emailed me, never called me, never texted me, nothing. They just pretended it didn't happen. And I was like, how awkward and rude is that? They're just going, like, You don't even know what to say to me, that you're just going to pretend I never even sang for you. So I was like, okay, I hear your silence loud and clear. I guess I wasn't good enough for your cool, hip worship team. Still not bitter at all. But anyway, rejected again. So there was another time where I felt that feeling of rejection. It was not singing related. It was when I was in a relationship, when I was in my, it was actually around the American Idol time, and it was in my early 20s. And at the time, I thought like, this is it. I really felt like this relationship was marriage material. We talked about marriage a really good amount. He talked about marriage a lot. So we were like on track to, take that next step, to the point where all of my family members were like waiting along with me, like, when is he gonna pull out that ring? We were just kind of waiting with bated breath. We were like anticipating it any day. And day by day by day, those days would just pass, and it was just weird. And I was confused because it seemed like things were like really moving strongly in that direction, and they just kind of started to like fizzle a little bit, and I was very confused. And I couldn't help but feel like, did I do something wrong? Like, or what is it about me? Like, it was really weird. I still don't know. And it's fine. But it was just very strange because like it got to a point where I kind of had to address it, because I was like, where is this going? It was like one of those talks. And I could just tell that on the other end, things were just not very, strong anymore. These feelings were not as strong, and just a very complacent feeling. And I was just like, yeah, this is not my idea of a relationship where, I remember telling him, like, I want to be with somebody who cannot stand the idea of not being married to me. And so like, I actually ended up breaking up the relationship because, and in a way it was kind of like well, I'm going to do this to kind of, I was probably like testing it a little bit. And then because I remember like weeks later, I kind of like checked in, like, so sorry, like, you're good with this? And he was good with it. And that's when the crying came. And yeah, it was like hours and hours of crying, like, oh wow, this really is over. I felt like I was like fooled. And it was just a very heavy, strong feeling of rejection. Like I, put so much of myself into the idea of a future with this person, and I guess he just did not feel the same way. So it was just a very strong feeling of rejection. And all of that to say that I kind of want to get to what I've learned from all of this rejection that I've had in my life. And these are not just the only times. There have been many, many more, but my phone's going to die, so I just want to kind of get to the point. You can be here, but you can't do that, okay? So my thoughts are, over the years, I have learned, as I've gotten older and wiser, I have learned that so many of the times where we experience rejection, it is, I believe, I am a Christian, so I believe that God is sovereign and knows every single step that we are taking and we are going to take. And I believe that certain doors close for a reason. I believe that he is either protecting us from a road that he doesn't want us to have to suffer, or just kind of shifting us in a direction where there are, better things, or just that's his will that he wants for our lives. So I find it a little bit easier to handle those kind of rejection experiences when I know that God is still taking care of me and still loves me, and he's still watching over me, and knows what's best for me. The other thing, and kind of going along those lines, is that I truly believe that, especially the relationship and the American Idol thing, that those things, if they had gone the way that at the time I had hoped they were gonna go, my life would be so completely different. And I like my life the way it is now, even though it's not easy or, tons of fun every second of every day. But like in terms of like my husband and my family now, like I am so glad that if that person had proposed back then, I would have said yes. And I would never have met my now husband, Andrew, and have my 4 beautiful kids with him and have a really wonderful family with a wonderful Christian husband who takes care of us and loves me and is so committed to our family, and never in my like wildest imagination could I ever imagine him giving me an ounce of what I experienced in that relationship where things just got kind of like, he is always 100% fully committed to our marriage and our family, even through bad times, even through the roller coaster of marriage and family life. That is something that we can count on with each other, is that we are committed, and we always are in love and hold on to that. So I am very thankful that I did not, I'm very thankful that I was rejected in a relationship that could have easily ended in divorce, or just a really unfulfilling and sad marriage, and or worse. I don't even know. But and then the American Idol thing, it's just so funny. But like, if I had gone on the show and let's say I did well or whatever, again, would I have met Andrew Legg sweeping the floor next to my math classroom at Dayspring Academy? I don't think so. I don't think that would have happened, and I wouldn't have met my adorable hubby. And so I am so glad that I didn't become the next American Idol. Okay, so even though I'm still a little bit bitter about that jerk who, interjected at my audition, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Verizon guy lookalike. You did me a favor, so thank you for being so mean that day. Anyway, so the other thing about rejection is we experience lots of little tiny glimpses of rejection when we experience criticism or constructive criticism. As a worship leader, I'm on stage every week, and we will sometimes get emails, or I'll get like a Facebook message or like something like that, that will just give me like, I'm gonna be careful what I say. Some people are like super nice about it and will just give me like constructive criticism or just like little things here and there. But like some people will send like an email or whatever that's just like, oh, and I've actually experienced, I won't go into the whole story, maybe that's for another day, but there was two times in my life, not at this church, but at a different church, that people were vicious to me, vicious, and there was a lot of crying involved. But anyway, that wasn't rejection, that was just mean. But anyway, I do experience like a lot of criticism from things like that, and it is very hard to take because I am a person that really likes to be liked. I'm a person that really wants to feel like I'm doing a good job and that people are pleased with my performance, or just what I'm offering or what I'm doing. And it's really hard, but I think as I get older and a little wiser, I can handle it better in the sense that I'm like, okay, what really matters is what my inner circle thinks of me. What does my husband think of me? Does my husband think I'm doing a great job? And the answer is always yes. And he'll tell me if I need to tweak something, but like, he is so encouraging and so supportive of literally everything I do. And that's really all I should care about. Do my kids think I'm doing a great job? You can answer that. Do you think I do a good job when I lead worship? She said yes. So that's all I care about. Does my boss, my pastor, does my team, do the elders think I'm doing a good job? Yes, okay, then good. Then if people want to say not nice things or give me this piece of advice that whatever, I can kind of take it with a grain of salt. Maybe I'll listen to it and say, okay, I can, think about that the next time I whatever. Or I can say, you know what, they really don't know me. They don't really understand what it is to be a worship leader. And that's kind of their issue. So the last thing that I want to talk about today is that I am about to walk into another season where I'm opening myself up to some major rejection. I would say almost guaranteed rejection. It's almost similar to the American Idol audition, but it's not singing, it's cooking and actually more specifically baking. So I recently decided that I'm going to apply for the Silos baking competition in Waco, Texas with Chip and Joe. And this kind of came about just about a month ago when I just found out that it existed. Andrew and I watched the episode of their very first show, and I was like, hey, I wonder if they're like doing that again. So I looked it up, and it just so happened that the application for the next season was opening up the following day and was going to be open for the entire month of July. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, should I do this? Now here's the thing. I don't consider myself a baker per se. A cook, yes, super confident cook, but a baker, not so confident, although I do love to do it more and more. And I find that I'm growing in my skills and I'm learning a lot, and I think I'm actually getting pretty good at certain things, and I'm really open to learning other things. But I am really scared because I know that I should say I'm scared of being rejected. I'm scared of my application being rejected, but I'm terrified of it not being rejected and going to the actual like filmed portion where I could completely embarrass myself, or I could just get so nervous that I pass out, or I don't know, all of the very unknown things could happen. And so I'm like a little bit scared of being rejected early on, but I'm a lot of it scared of like the ultimate rejection, like on camera in front of millions of people. So I guess this topic is very timely because I've experienced those, can you stop doing that? I've experienced all of those and more rejection times in my life, but it still hasn't really stopped me from going after things that I think could be a really cool experience. And it is another risk of rejection, another risk of embarrassment, but heck, if I get another great story out of it, then we'll just chat about it over some tea, and maybe we can cry about it together. So here I go again. I am going for, this baking competition, and I'm very excited to see what happens. I'm about halfway through the application process right now, only because the process isn't that intense. It's just that it asks you a couple of questions about yourself and your life. And if you know me really well, you know I love to write, and you know I love to, well, obviously if you are even pay attention to a few minutes of any of my videos, you know I love to talk and tell stories and that kind of thing. So I'm writing a lot about, they ask a lot about your background and what's unique about you, blah, blah, blah. So I'm talking about, the YouTube channel. I'm talking a lot about, my family. And I've basically written almost like mini blog articles for like each question. I haven't even like actually submitted it on the application because I still have to do the recipe portion, which I have all my recipes, all my pictures and everything like that. I just have to actually type them in, make sure there are no typos, make sure there are no mistakes, make sure that I don't miss anything, and then officially send it in. The applications close after July 31st, so I only have a few days left to get it in. So that's what I'm gonna be working on and finishing up in the next few days. So stay tuned because this was the episode of rejection. We can call that part 1. Stay tuned if I'm going to have to film a part 2 in the next couple of weeks or months because I might have an update about what happens with this Silos baking competition. We'll see if I get rejected or accepted, and we'll see what happens from there. So I hope that you guys have maybe learned a little bit more about me and maybe a little bit on how we can all just handle rejection a little bit differently next time, knowing that what other people think about us or what other people decide about us doesn't have to be our identity. It doesn't have to determine what we do next, or if we're going to continue in that talent or gift, or if we're just, we can kind of take it in stride, take it with a grain of salt and say, that was your opinion. And depending on the person, if you value that person's opinion, I value that opinion. And I will take that into consideration, and I will keep doing what I'm doing. Or if that person's just a complete jerk, like that Verizon lookalike guy, yeah, I'm still talking about you, Verizon lookalike guy. Then just, tell in your head, just say, yeah, you're kind of a jerk and you can't tell me what I can't do. So, and, just don't let it affect you. And find somebody who is in your inner circle, or as Chip Gaines would say, in your network, and who's your supporter, and you ask them, say, you know, hey, what do you think about this? Should I go for it, or should I stop here? Should I, and get some honest feedback from the people who know you and care about you most. So, cheers, you guys. Thank you for watching. If you have not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and click on that bell so you get the notifications when I go live. I go live a lot doing cooking and chatting and all that good stuff. So thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your Tuesday. Bye.